At one time, I seemed to come to the end of the earth, to a place where it fell into space. A little beyond, the land recommenced, but between the two, I looked down into the sky. As I bent over, I saw another bending over under me, head hanging downwards in those fallen heavens, a little child with round eyes. It was some strange mercy of God, assuredly, that the child did not fall into the hopeless eternity. The young man paused reflectively. I tried to say, "A pool," but the words did not come. I seemed to have forgotten it. I seemed to have forgotten everything except his terrible blue eyes, big with unsupportable significance. And then I realized he was speaking again. I heard a great noise out of the sky, and I turned and saw a giant. Stories and legends there are of those who in the morning of the world strayed also into the borders of the land of the giants. But it is impossible for any tongue to utter the overpowering sense of anarchy and portent felt at seeing so much of the landscape moving upon my own two legs, of looking up and seeing a face like my own, colossal, filling the heavens. He lifted me like a flying bird into space, and set me upon his shoulder. I shall never forget the sight of his huge bare features, growing larger as I came nearer to them, the sun shining on them as they smiled and smiled, a sight to give one dreams. The young man paused again. I seemed to feel the whole sane universe of custom and experience slipping from me. And with an effort like a drowning man's, I cried out desperately, "But it was a man! It was your father!" He raised his eyebrows as a coincidence. "So they said," he observed. "Do you know what it means?" I found myself broken and breathless, as Job might have been, battered with the earthquake question of omniscience. He went on, smoking slowly. With the giant was a woman. When I saw her, something stirred within me, like the memory of a previous existence. And after I had lived some little while with them, I began to have an idea of what the truth must be. Instead of killing me, the giant and giantess fed and tended me like servants. I began to understand, in that lost epic of adventures, which led up to the greatest event of my life, I must have done some great service for these good people. What it was, I had, by a quaint irony, myself forgotten. But I loved to see it shining with inscrutable affection, and that woman's eyes like a secret of the stars. There are few things more beautiful than gratitude. One day, as I stood beside her knee, she spoke to me, but I was speechless. A new and dreadful fancy had me by the throat. The woman was smaller than before. The house was smaller. The ceiling was nearer. Heaven and earth, even to the remotest star, were closing in to crush me. The next moment I had realized the truth, fled from the house, and plunged through the thickets like a thing possessed. A disease of transformation too monstrous for nightmare had quickened within me. I was growing larger, and larger whether I would or no. I rolled on the gravel, revolving wild guesses as to whether I should grow to fill the sky, a giant with my head in heaven, bewildered among the golden plumage of the cherubim. This, as a matter of fact, I never did. It will always fill me with awe to think that no sign or premonition gave me warning of what I saw next. I merely raised my eyes, and I saw it. Within a few feet of me was kneeling one of my own size, a little girl with big blue eyes, and hair black as crows. The landscape behind her was the same in every hedge and tree that I had left, yet I felt sure that I had come into a new world. I had gotten to my feet, and made her a kind of bow, looking a fantastic figure enough, but a red star came into her cheek. "Why, you are quite nice," she said. I looked at her inquiringly. "They say you are the mad boy," she said, "who stares at everything. But I think I like them mad." I said nothing. I only stood up straight, thanked God for every turn of my rambling path to that elvish topsy-turvydom which at length led to this. Although I had not asked for a miracle in answer, 2 or 3 drops of clear water fell out of the open sky. "There will be a storm," the girl cried hastily. She seemed quite frightened of the dark, which now came over the wood, the shocks of sound that shook the sky now and again. This fear surprised me, for he had not seemed afraid of the grass. She seemed so broken with the noise, and the dark and the driving rain, that I put my arm around her. As I did so, something new came over me, a feeling less alien and disturbed, more responsible and strangely strong, as if I had inherited a trust and privilege. For the first time I felt a kinship with the monstrous landscape. I knew that I had been sent to the right place. "You are very brave," she said, as the deafening skies seemed bowed about us and shouting in our ears. Do you not hear it?" "I hear the daisies growing," I said. Her answer was lost in the thunder. We were miles further on before she said, "But are you not mad?" I spoke, but it seemed as if another spoke in my ear. "I am the first that ever saw the world. Prophets and sages there have been, out of whose great hearts came schools and churches, but I am the first who ever saw a dandelion as it is." Wind and dark rain swept about, swaying in a cloud the place of that awful proclamation. The young man paused once more. Someone near me moved his chair against mine. I remember with a start that I realized I was in a crowded room, not in a desert with an insane hermit. "But you have not told me," I said, "of the great moment, when you seem to have discovered all." "It is soon told," he said. 10 years afterwards, the girl and I stood in one room together. We were man and wife. Other men and women went in and out, all of my own stature. There were no more giants. It was as though I had dreamed of them. I seemed to have come back among my own people. And then my wife, who was bending over a kind of couch, lifted the coverlet, and I saw that for which happily I had been sent into this fantastic borderland of themes. It was a little human creature, hardly bigger than a bird, and when I saw it, I knew everything. It was the greatest event of my life, the event I had forgotten. I said, "Being born," in a low voice. I did not dare look at his face. The next consciousness I had was after he had risen to his feet and was putting on his gloves very carefully. I sprang erect also and spoke quickly. "What does it mean? Are you a man? What thing are you? Are you a savage, or a spirit, or a child? You wear the dress and speak the language of a cultivated people of this over-cultivated time, and yet you see everything as if you saw it for the first time. What does it mean?" After a silence, he spoke in his quiet way. "Have you ever said some simple word over and over until it became unmeaning, a scrap of an unknown tongue, till you seem to have been opening and shutting your mouth with a cry like an animal's? So it is with the great world in which we live. It begins familiar. It ends unfamiliar. When the first men began to think and talk and theorize and work the world over and over with phrases and associations, then it was involved and faded, as a psychological necessity. But some day a creature would be produced, corresponding to the 20th pronunciation of the word, a new animal with eyes to see and ears to hear, with an intellect capable of performing a new function never before conceived truly, thanking God for his creation. I tell you, religion is in its infancy. Dervish and anchorite, crusader and Ironside were not fanatical enough, or frantic enough in their adoration. A new type has arrived. You have seen it." He moved towards the door. Then I noticed he had come to a standstill again, and was gazing at the floor, apparently in deep thought. "I have never understood them," he said. "Those two creatures I see everywhere, stumping along the ground, first one, then the other. I had never been content with the current explanation that they were my feet." And he passed out, still carefully buttoning his gloves. I went back to the table and sat down. About 4 minutes after he was gone, I felt a kind of mental shock, like something resuming its place in my brain. It occurred to me that the man was mad. I'm almost ashamed to admit with the suddenness it came. For so long as I was in his presence, I had believed him and his whole attitude to be sane, normal, complete, and that was the rest, the whole human race, that were half-witted since the making of this world.